Welcome back to the Hockey Show, and today we are talking about the Florida Panthers and if they can go back to back. And you should subscribe. Just what the hell, for fun. I dare you. You won't. I bet you won't. Just do it. Anyways, the Florida Panthers, will they go back to back? So 3 years ago, this team goes on and wins the President's Trophy. I guess 3 years ago, depending on how you look at it. With Jonathan Huberdeau still on the team and Mackenzie Weegar, they get those guys to lift the President's Trophy, and then they fail abysmally in the playoffs and lose to the Tampa Bay Lightning. So then, and after putting it like being the best offensive team, they realized, Bill Zito realized, and everyone was like, you know what? Can't do this again. Paul Maurice, get him in here. We need a tough guy to set our guys straight. And you know what? Weegar, Huberdeau, losers. They cannot win us games. Out of here. Bring in Matthew Tkachuk. And they set the world on fire. Well, sort of. So they started out last season, 2 years ago, I guess, depending on how you want to look at it. They start off the year very poor. They won the President's Trophy, but things went like very flat. Didn't really get off to like the hottest pace. But then they made it to the final. they made it to the final, and they don't win the Stanley Cup. They lose only to the team that could barely beat them after having such an amazing Cinderella run, beating the best ever President's Trophy team in the Bruins after they won it last year. And then they have such amazing series against like the Maple Leafs, and then they go on against the Hurricanes, and then lose to the Vegas Golden Knights. And then Matthew Tkachuk apparently out one day or in the locker room after he said, "We're going back." Yeah. And then they did. They did it again. And I called it all along. I knew it. I said it from day number one that the Florida Panthers are going to win the Stanley Cup. And everyone's saying the New York Rangers, the team of destiny. Or the Oilers are the team of destiny. Or all of this. But really the Rangers. I was like, no. You're just wrong. And I was right all along. The team of destiny wins the day, the Florida freaking Panthers. But the question is now, can the squad go back to back, B to B? And let's talk about it. So right now this team is definitely in a very, very tough predicament. This is the most names I had to write for a free agents list in any of my videos about covering a team so far. And it is a tough situation. Now, the news coming out right now is Sam Reinhart and Carter Verhaeghe are expected to sign contracts to stick with this team. Carter Verhaeghe still has 1 year left of his $4 million contract. And Reinhart, as we all know, is going to be a free agent. So, Reinhart is expected to be signing within the Matthew Tkachuk and Barkov range, which is 9.5 for Tkachuk, 10 million for Barkov. So my prediction probably would be 9.5 for Reinhart. I think Reinhart's one of those guys that definitely is I don't want to say smart, but is more respectable, and he seems a little bit more like in his lane kind of guy. And to me, I don't think he would want to earn more than his captain, who definitely is a better player than him. So I'm guessing he's probably going to be in the Tkachuk range for between 9 and maybe to 10. I just don't think he would match his captain. I just don't think he would want to do that. So to me, 9 to 10 is, I guess, a fair thing to say, which I know 10 would be matching him, but whatever the hell. And Carter Verhaeghe, I think most people would speculate he doesn't get like at least to 9. He just isn't that like all-around player, but he scored a lot of goals for this team. He's always consistent, and especially for the playoff performance that he brings every single year, he's got to get paid too. So to me, I would say he probably gets 7 to 8.5 million. He's just unreal. Definitely an under talked about player. And I know if I say that, people are gonna be like, what the hell are you talking about? They just said his name a million freaking times in the playoffs. But no, he definitely deserves some more credit. But anyways, so after all that, that's going to combine for those two guys. That's going to be $16 to $18.5 million from their already slim $19.5 million. Where I guess, yes, Carter Verhaeghe, his contract would be kicking in next year. So I guess for one season coming up this year, it's going to be very hard for them to sign guys to one-year deals unless they can kind of figure it out. But for some of these free agents, like Brandon Montour, that are like the big names, sure, like a Kulikov or an OEL, maybe like Lawrence and Lomberg, they can get like one-year deals for those guys. But those aren't the contracts that matter. Those are the guys that are going to get paid $1 or $2, potentially maybe $3 million for like a Kulikov. But overall, these guys are going to not be taking that big of a deal. But for a guy like Brandon Montour, who was looking into cash in on himself, then those are going to be one of those contracts that you got to worry about the long-term future of things. And I know the cap's going up and up and up, and it's just going to keep going more and more. So next year could be adding another $6 or $7 million to that number. But for now, you don't know that, and I guess who knows what the hell's going to happen. But they're very tight because they got Lundell to re-sign, who they have to. Mini Barkov needs to be re-signed. And a lot of the depth players, which they're going to be able to do. Because just looking at it on paper, especially with the main news that Ekblad is going to be traded out of town as well, they're going to have a hefty chunk of change left. 7.5 for Aaron Ekblad for cap relief. They send him to... Maybe Utah wants to pick him up. They send him to Utah. He's got plenty of cap space. They can take it all on and give him back like a first round and the second round pick or something like that, and or some sort of like lower paid defenseman or something in return. Then they have that cap space, so they'll be left around 8.5 to 10.5 plus the extra 3 to 4 million because of Carter Verhaeghe's contract for 1 year alone. So they have money. They have money to sign, like, basically all these guys. But that's not the issue. The issue is now they're going to be down Aaron Ekblad, and they'll be down Brandon Montour. That is, like, their 2 out of 3 best defensemen, because Gustav Forsling is still left behind. So they're left with Forsling and, like, Nico Mikkola, and that's it. It's kind of tough, especially when this team really won that Stanley Cup because of their defensive prowess and able to really shut down teams with Bobrovsky in the back end of things, right? So they can't really make any more big signings because next year they got to sign Carter Verhaeghe. That number is going to go onto there, and then you've also got Sam Bennett's contract that also ends this season as well. And I'm guessing Florida, unless they move on from him, are going to have to sign him. And if they don't sign him, if they want to stay competitive, they're going to have to sign someone that's good. So they either keep Bennett or they find someone that's similar to Bennett. Regardless, they're going to have to pay someone that money to stay that like solid like top 6. So there is a lot of money that's going to be bleeding out here. My main point to make here is that the Panthers are going to be really hit in the back end of things, right? OEL, Dmitry Kulikov out from there. And then, so right now they're just left with Mikkola and Gustav Forsling if they trade away Ekblad. So they're down like 2 of their defensemen. Very rough back there, especially when you've got a 35-year-old Sergei Bobrovsky and Spencer Knight, who maybe could be sent back to the NHL, which would be very nice, because if they can also figure out, like, if this was, like, the world of EA NHL, you would trade away Sergei Bobrovsky and you hope Spencer Knight can step in and be that goaltender to really give you that cap relief and spend on that top lines, right? Because, sure, this team is going to be able to keep around, like, the depth, keep guys like Cousins and Lomberg and Lawrence, maybe an Akaposo, maybe a Stenlund, right? Sure, Dmitry Kulikov gets signed, like, a 2-year, $2 million, $3 million deal. OEL as well, maybe, like, another $3 million guy. But that isn't fixing the problem, right? You're still missing that Ekblad, that Montour, that like high, like 86, 87, 88 defenseman to help Gustav Forsling back there. Because that was the way they won the Stanley Cup. You have to have all areas of the ice. They have the offense, and if Bobrovsky or Spencer Knight stays awesome, then they have the goaltending. But that defense is getting obliterated this offseason. So it's a big hurt. It's like, it is a big nuke that's being dropped on this team. So to me, it's a hard question to ask. Right now, Florida is definitely in a tough position. Can they win back-to-back? First, are they a playoff team? Absolutely. Are they, no matter what, if they have a Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk and Gustav Forsling and one of their goaltenders is very good, and they still have some pretty good offensive depth and upfront talent, especially in a division that's going to play against potentially the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Bruins and a couple of other teams that definitely look like they could be falling down the list a little bit? Yes, they are a playoff team. Can they be deadly in the playoffs? Can they finish against a first-round team like the Toronto Maple Leafs still? I think absolutely. Can, depending on how things shake up, maybe the second round? Sure. But that is where I see this team really getting hit hard. I don't know if they can get that far in the playoffs. I think, well, I guess the Eastern Conference Finals is pretty far. But I don't think this team is going to be a President's Trophy winning team. I don't think this is a team, because it feels like this is a year where, like Matthew Tkachuk is due for another big season again after last year being a little bit of a sleeper for him. At maybe a guy like, I guess if they trade away a guy like Ekblad, they could keep on Brandon Montour, but then that really hurts from the depth being able to be signed back onto this team, and they don't really have that many amazing guys to bring up from the AHL and smaller contracts, so I don't really know. This is a dire circumstance for them, and especially with Bobrovsky getting older, and for someone like him, he just only seems to be getting better now, but you know how long that lasts with a guy like Marc-Andre Fleury. It just drops out of nowhere. And, so to me, the Florida Panthers, as much as I love them and I called them to win the Stanley Cup, there is definitely going to be other teams in the NHL this year that also could be getting better than them and definitely look like they're in better positions and ready to explode, and other teams that look like they're ready to just stay dominant and a little bit better that are going to be better than the Panthers this year. And so for those reasons, I believe the Florida Panthers will not be able to go back-to-back. I think they're going to be still a strong competitor for any team to play up against, but depending on some moves by teams like the Carolina Hurricanes, maybe even potentially what the Tampa Bay Lightning are doing, other teams emerging like the Devils again, maybe the Buffalo Sabres finally put things together. The Rangers are still a threat. For multiple reasons, the Florida Panthers look like they're going to have a lesser team this year, and there is a lot of competition this year already. So to me, that is why the Panthers will not win the Stanley Cup this year. So that is all I got to say, and that's it. So thank you for watching. If you made it this far, please, I'm begging you, please subscribe. And until next time, too sweet, have an amazing day, and ta-ta for now.